Brian Jones on why England is the epicenter of music, bad publicity, Elvis having no feeling, and his post-Stones plans. Brian Jones explains in interviews between 1965 to 1969 his thoughts on a variety of topics, including why England is the epicenter of popular music, the Rolling Stones' bad publicity, marriage, his thoughts on Elvis being devoid of feeling, and what his post-Stones plans are. Be sure to stick around to the end to hear Brian's written response to a fan letter. Bill Wyman explains Brian's early popularity with the Stones fans and how committed he was to the band. The band provides insights into how challenging it was dealing with Brian before the downfall. In this first interview, which is quite funny, listen carefully to the guys making fun of Brian Jones's early stage name. See if you catch it.
I learned piano and clarinet. I used to play clarinet, and thank you. And I lost interest in the clarinet because I became very sort of involved in musical studies, and I lost a lot of interest because I think I was getting in a rut. I was getting too involved, and I started to play the guitar, and sort of gave me sort of a new feel musically, and I became interested in jazz and rhythm and blues eventually, and sort of gradually worked around playing with the Rolling Stones. Shut up.
I see you have certain difficulties with your friends. Passing on to you.
No, they're all right, you know.
I never played with anybody before.
You didn't play with anybody?
Before I played with the Rolling Stones. No, I learned guitar about 3-4 years ago. And I was caught up in the Rolling Stones.
Yes.
And that's all, you know. I never played with anybody before. And I'm sure.
You just play by heart, you?
Yeah,
His soul.
Soul. My soul.
Well,
Teddy.
next.
I can't do anything. I can't play anything. I wish I could, but I can't.
But still, you must learn to sing
Yeah,
somewhere,
no, you
or
don't learn
rehearse
to
in the
sing.
bathroom or something.
You don't learn to sing, you just open your mouth and horrible noises come out.
And that's what's going to happen.
That's what happens.
That's what still happens.
Unfortunately. Phil?
Yeah.
Now give him a chance, please.
Shouldn't ask these questions. Everyone sends everybody else up. No one wants to say anything.
I just messed about with the guitar at home about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and eventually formed a group, and they wanted a bass player, so I had to play bass because nobody else did.
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
We're only hostile when people are hostile to us. We're not hostile to people as a matter of course.
Anything that you'd like to say right now before the camera rolls out?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Well, it might be sad at a particular time, but I think basically we're quite happy people.
I see. Are you still runner-up for the Beatles now?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we've got different scenes going. I don't know who's more popular in what part of the world. I don't know. I don't sort of worry about that.
How's your popularity in Europe at this moment?
Very good, I think. Very healthy.
Would you know why England became the pop centre?
It just happened that England had the right type of sound and the right sort of visual image that the kids over the world wanted at that particular time. It just happened. It could have been anywhere. It could have happened. It could have been France. It could, they just happened to be England.
Our sort of success is a first-class ticket to a lot of things. On the other hand, there's not much physical freedom. We have to choose very carefully where we go, where we socialise, where we go for holidays.
With the Rolling Stones, are you one of the original members?
Yes, one of the original members.
What were you doing before you joined?
Well, just sort of bumming around waiting for something to happen, really. I had quite a few jobs, and I was trying to get a band going, but it was unsuccessful until I met up with Mick and Keith, and then that was a successful band. The four-letter words.
No, the ones that are repeatable.
We've been called just about everything from beautiful to revolting.
Well, when we first started playing together, we started playing because we wanted to play rhythm and blues, and Howling Wolf was one of our greatest idols, and it's a great pleasure to find he's been booked on this show tonight. It really is a pleasure.
Thanks to Howling Jackwood.
So I think it's about time you shut up and we had Howling Wolf on stage.
This group, how does it come, you think?
Well, the whole thing started really with Bad Publicity. It just became the thing to write sort of certain things about us, such as, the Rolling Stones never wash, the Rolling Stones are rude, they're scruffy. They're not really true. We don't take any notice of it because our fans know it's not true anyway, so we don't worry about it. Let the press write what they want, It's all, anything controversial is bound to be, sort of good, If the press ignored us completely, we'd worry about it.
Yeah. What kind of music do you prefer?
Well, I like all sorts of different music. I know more about American rhythm and blues music than I do about any other sort of music, because that was the particular music I became interested in a very practical sort of way. I wanted to play it, but I like classical music, and I like pop music generally. I like good pop music.
Yeah.
And
what kind of artists do you like?
Mainly my favourite artists are American coloured artists such as James Brown, Muddy Waters, Jimmy Reed, Bo Diddley, Chuck Berry. People like this are really my favourite artists.
You still like this record by Muddy Waters, Rolling Stone Blues?
Oh yeah.
Still like
I think Muddy Waters is fantastic. He created a whole new style of folk singing. He really did.
What do you think of English groups and artists?
I like very few of them. Let's face it, nearly all English groups have got our original inspiration from American music, from coloured American music. So we're not original to such a great extent. But some of them, I think, are very bad. I think we have what the Americans call soul. I think we have. And I think the Beatles are very good musically. I think they're great. In fact, they're my favourite British group. Apart from that, there are very few groups that I do like. I think the Animals are good musicians. Apart from that, I can't think of very many people I like at all.
What do you think of, for example, Elvis Presley?
Well, I think Presley, he got a whole thing going. I'm not very interested in Elvis Presley. I think he made some very good records earlier on. But when he was still interested in his profession, but, he lost interest in his career a long time ago. And it's a very impersonal sort of thing. I mean, Presley's records are very impersonal, and he has no feeling behind them. And I don't bother to listen to Elvis Presley even these days. I just wouldn't bother, As far as I'm concerned, he's of no importance in the pop music world, whatever.
Tell me, Brian, I think before, when I seen you on stage, you used harmonica more. And you used to play...
It's just... we get a bigger sound using two guitars, But, I mean, we might, so it's just nothing... It's nothing sort of
you
set,
used to alternate between the guitar and...
Yeah, yes. But now, it used to mean a lot of changing about and everything all the time. You put a guitar down, pick a harmonica up, and you don't have such a big sound with one guitar as you do with two. If I'm playing guitar and Keith's playing guitar, we've got a much bigger, more powerful sound.
Another thing, have you got any favourite recording? One of your own ones? Which track?
I don't know, really. It's a very difficult question to answer. I don't know. You want to play one?
Yeah.
You might as well play one of the more unusual ones. Play an instrumental, 2120 South Michigan Avenue.
Okay, thanks a lot, Brian.
Be aware that of most of the groups, you seem to arouse more antagonism of people than other groups do. Are you in fact aware of this?
Yes, I don't think it's true.
You don't think it's true anymore?
I think they're very popular with older people.
But how much do you want to be accepted by everybody?
Well, it's just I think it's you can't. I think it's what's the word? It's logical that once if you're around, if you're successful sort of for a long period of time, that you are going to become accepted, by everybody eventually, And once they accept the fact that you're there, they don't sort of worry about it anymore. They don't,
Our friends and fans, the current British #1. But just before we hear it, let's talk to Rolling Stones' Brian Jones and Mick Jagger. How would you describe Jumping Jack Flash, Mick, do you think, huh?
It's a sort of groover, a nice up-tempo groover.
Oh, that's
is
good,
how
yeah.
I would describe it. Yes, well, Brian, what do you think?
Oh, it's got a very nice sort of riff pattern, like Satisfaction. I mean, I dig it in the same way as I dug Satisfaction. It's like, instead of a sort of dun 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 dun, it's a sort of dun dun ba dun dun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. But it's very different. But it has the same basic sort of funky quality.
Yes, it's a very basic, simple sound, isn't it? I mean, compared with your Satanic Majesty's LP.
Satanic Majesty's was an album,
right,
which might have been very complex. This is a single. I mean, it's one track. I mean, this is one track of what we're doing at the moment. I mean, it isn't like we're not making an LP like this, No. I mean, some of the LP will be in a way as complicated, in a way totally different. But I mean, this is one track, and it happens to be very basic.
All right, let's hear it.
Oh, I have a lot of regrets, but generally speaking, no. I'm very satisfied with what's happened.
He told us about the bear, the airline pilot. The bear, when the bear goes down, goes down the plane.
Very simple answer to that question. I haven't found a girl I want to marry. In any case, the whole prospect of marriage rather frightens me. It's rather like signing a contract. Whenever I sign a contract for anything, I want to read it carefully, because, you know, you're signing a part of you away, and you get married. I feel that you're signing your whole life away. And if I could get married for a year, just sign a year's contract, I would probably be much happier at the thought of getting married.
Would you recommend this practice of having a year's trial to other people, or is this just something?
Well, I'm not really advocating a year's trial, because I believe that I believe that two people can fall in love very quickly, and I think they can find out about each other very quickly if they're in love. And I think, so actually, no, I don't advocate a trial marriage, because I think people, when they go into marriage, even if it's for a year's trial, I think they usually know whether their personalities are going to be compatible or not. But it's just that problems and antagonisms do arise in later life, which may not have been foreseeable at all at the time of marriage. Usually I think these things crop up after a year. I don't think a trial marriage is going to alter people's minds at all. I wasn't really serious. I was serious when I was talking about the year's contract. But it's just this permanency of the whole thing that's rather frightening me.
So if your career as a Rolling Stone, as a pop star, suddenly came to an end, what would you do?
This is why I have no sort of concrete ideas on the future, because I really don't know when things are going to come to an end or what's going to happen. There are, as I said, very definite things that I want to do, both artistically and sort of also far more practical things.
Such what sort of things artistically?
Well, I'm very interested in making a film. I have a friend who has turned me on very much. The script is almost complete, so I'm sort of working on that.
Can you tell us something about it?
Well, it's really, I described it the other day as a sort of new interpretation of the eternal theme of love. It's really just that.
And in what way is it a new interpretation?
Well, I want to sort of just use two people in the film, man and woman.
Isn't it a very old idea of love?
And the third, but I want the third character to be love, which I want to try and project through the medium of the film, using sort of different techniques, using movements and images and symbols.
Is the third person a person then, or an abstraction?
No, it's an abstraction. It may not be a completely new basic idea, but I'm sure the way this is going to turn out, it will be something very new. It's a very surrealistic sort of thing. But I'm not doing it for any commercial gain at all. I'm just doing it because I feel it's something I want to do.
What is surrealism? Will you use the word?
Next we will hear from the Rolling Stones and the challenges they faced with Brian and their take on what went wrong. One interesting moment is when Mick describes Brian in the same way he described Elvis earlier. Brian says Elvis lost interest in his music, and Mick says Brian lost interest in the Rolling Stones. I think Mick's take on how hard fame is on people is at the heart of the matter. When you're running from something and using a substance habit to cope, things never end well. As the phrase goes, everywhere I go, there I am.
I always felt very sorry for Brian. He was two things. He was not very nice, and he upset people very easily. He wasn't very pleasant, I mean.
He was just gone. Well, he wouldn't turn up half the time. When he did turn up, it was not in any condition to do anything, to baby him.
He wasn't strong enough mentally or physically to take any of it, and of course he did everything. Brian was one of those people that did everything to excess.
What we did a flavour, but his involvement in the band dwindled.
And he wasn't functioning as a musician. I don't think he was that interested in contributing to the Rolling Stones anymore. He certainly didn't know if he was going to turn up and what state he was going to be, and then what was he going to be able to do in that state? What job could you give him?
It was very important to us, the fact that we were going to go back out on the road behind a new record, that we resolved this thing with Brian. So Mick and I had to go down and sort of tell Brian virtually, like, hey, cock, you're fired. Yeah, the fact that he was expecting it made it kind of easier, I guess. You know, he wasn't surprised, and I don't really even think he took it all in. He was already up in the stratosphere, you know. It was kind of like, hey.
We didn't even expect him to be there. If he turned up, we'd find something for him to do. Yeah, I'll ask him, you got anything, what do you think about this? You want to put something over this? No, by then he was already in, bye-bye land. Yeah, but there was no serious way that we can consider going on the road with Brian. So that was, but at the same time, nobody expected it to happen just like that.
Fame doesn't sit very comfortably on anyone's shoulders. But some people's shoulders doesn't seem to sit on at all, and he was one of them. I don't think it suited him.
But within a very short amount of time, another guy was coming out, a Mimi, and somebody you didn't suspect lurked in there, and this guy got bigger and bigger as the years went by, and also became more self-destructive. I'm one to talk about that, right? But I'm still here, You
just have that feeling that they're not going to be 70 years old ever, Not everybody makes it,
And Brian went for it all the way, and once he was down that path, man, there's no stopping him.
He got much nicer just before he died, the last few years of his life, but I felt even sorrier for him for what we did to him then. We took his one thing away, which was being in a band. That's my opinion.
And then one time when we sat around on the floor, we played in a circle, playing No Expectations. And he picked up the guitar and played a very pretty lines on it, which you can hear on the record.
8.
To be a pop star. I enjoy it, with reservations, but I'm not really sort of satisfied, either artistically or personally.
When I think about it with Brian, when we were slogging away with no recognition, just doing what we're doing, and quite enjoying it, but with no great ambitions or anything, he was a great guy.
Let's face it, the future as a Rolling Stone is very uncertain.
I remember Mick and Keith saying, we can't go on like this, we need another guy. And we did need somebody else.
You remember what happened that day when you went over there?
No, can't remember. But I remember it wasn't very nice.
The early days, who got all the fan mail? Brian. The secretaries told me, we get about 100 letters, about 60 of them are for Brian, about 25 are for Mick, There's about 10 for Charlie and Keith, and there's about the same for you, and that's it, but Brian gets all the fan mail. He was brilliant. He was a brilliant musician. He shocked everybody with the quality of his playing. We all dedicated ourselves to the band, and Brian more so than anybody else, because it was his band in the beginning, so it meant the world to him more than it did to the rest of us. Brian did everything. He wrote to the music papers. He discussed things about the origins of what is actually the blues and what is R&B. There's all those letters and things. I've got copies of them. When Brian advertised for a band, he chose every single person to come into his band.
Brian then was as popular and famous as Mick. He was the heart and soul of the early Stones. Yet most people today haven't even heard of him. Brian answered most of the fan mail.
Dear Doreen, many thanks for your letter and the great interest you've shown in the band. The band is really an amalgamation of two bands, the one being an R&B band I formed a year ago, and the other being a group run by Mick and Keith in southeast London. We have, I might add, a habit of breaking audience attendance records.
You can clearly see just how intelligent and perceptive Brian Jones was. When the band began to move in a different direction, it seems he took it very personal and began to stop behaving as a leader, which is when that role shifted to Mick. It would have been interesting to see if Brian would have just stayed the course with the Stones, how things would have turned out for him. What songs could have come out of that band with his input throughout the years? Could you imagine Brian Jones on tour with the Rolling Stones into his 80s?